If everybody's ready, we'll call September 16th. Button Springdale Port Commission meeting to order. Roll call.
Neil Johnson.
Here.
Greg Collier.
Here.
Joel Gardner. Steve Smith.
I'm here.
Bill Schoonover.
Here.
Micah Thomason.
Here. Okay. Comments from the audience. Okay, Daniel.
Good afternoon, everybody. A couple of quick numbers for you. Looking back at our jet nav gas sales for August, we had 45,176 gallons of jet fuel sold. That's down only 1% from the previous month in July. We had 45,699. So staying steady with jet fuel sales, staying really busy. That's a comfortable spot for us. A lot of activity at the airport, and with our personnel numbers, we're staying busy. We're keeping moving. Our avgas, however, increased substantially. The good weather really encouraged a lot of people to get out and fly. The local guys, the flight school as well. We had 8,609 gallons of avgas sold last month. That's 21% higher than in July. So that was a great thing. Cameron loves that. So very good. Okay, so moving on to my second item. So last month I proposed to the commission adding a 5-year option to the current contract that we hold with the city. We have just started our second 5-year option. And as I said before, we're looking at what are the possibilities for us to extend our presence, really try and gain a good outlook on what we can do in the future to help build our business and the airport as a whole. So I was asked to pull together a little bit more in-depth information, and in front of you I have the proposal that I've put together. So if you could just go through it with me. The beginning is just a little introductory. Again, as I said, we're looking to really build up what we've got, make it substantial when it comes to purchasing of new equipment going forward. We want to be able to leverage our financial options just as best as possible. And then, as I stated, we are in the second option of our 15-year contract. So we're in the 6th year of our contract now. So I've got 3 exhibits that this proposal covers. The first exhibit is a renovation to the classroom upstairs in the southeast corner of the building. This is something we've been looking at doing for a number of years now, and something we're really eager to do for our customers, specifically our pilots who are coming in and spending a lot of time at the airport, and they don't necessarily want to go anywhere. They're not there long enough to make a trip into town, and but they want a nice, comfortable, quiet, private place to relax. So you'll see on the 3rd page a picture of the current classroom. Really plain, not much happening. There's a desk there. It functions, but that's about it. It's functional. So the 2 images I've added at the bottom are kind of the themes that we've really narrowed down on and what we would like it to look like eventually. Now, these are very generic lounges, these pictures. So there's going to be different things in here that are going to cater specifically to pilots. That's going to be large screen TVs with weather displays, current weather at local airports, flight planning computers, very nice, comfortable chairs, maybe a quiet section that somebody can get a couple hours rest in while they're hanging out with us. Exhibit B, we're looking into new equipment. Very soon, we are going to purchase a GPU. It's just got to happen. Our 2 GPUs that we currently own now are over 25 years old. They're great runners, but they're quirky. And when you're working with multi-million-dollar aircraft, quirky is not necessarily a good quality. So we are beginning the process of getting quotes for new equipment. What would that equipment look like? And so the next couple pages are examples of that equipment. The ITW GSE 6400 is a very capable GPU. That's good for everything from a small citation up to a 737. The next one is a JetGo 400, and it's a little bit more in our range for what we need to be able to cater to citations, large aircraft, up to maybe a Metroliner, 15, 20 passenger sort of ideas. Another thing we're going to have to purchase soon is a side-by-side of some sort. We're really attracted to the Kubota brand, something with 4 seats, something that's very reliable. We have a side-by-side, but we haven't used it in a while. It's just it's at the end of its life. So those are a few examples of what we're looking for new equipment to be able to cater to our customers and service our customers while having an image that shows that we're not running old equipment and just scraping by with our capabilities, that we're going to take care of them with good new equipment, and the GPUs are going to work really well with their aircraft. Now, Exhibit C is a elite race increase of 1 cent per gallon that we would be happy to take on, and that is to show you guys that we understand it's going to cost more, and it's a huge decision to allow another 5-year option onto a contract such as this. And so what we want to do is to say, hey, we can take on an extra 1 cent per gallon. It's very absorbable by us, and over the remainder of the lease term that we have currently or an extended one, there would be a significant financial impact for the city of Springdale and their financial budget. So as you can see in my second paragraph, Springdale Airport has seen an average increase in fuel sales of 2,975 gallons each year over the past 10 years, projecting that increase per year over the next 15 years. We see the financial impact it would have. So I've taken it from 2021 up to 2036. The way I got my first number, my average gallons, 418,826. That's an average over the last 10 years with that 2975 added in. That's what we project that we will do, but over the last couple months with our fuel sales being like they are, it seems like it's going to be a lot higher than that. So again, very good. But you can see with that additional penny, for 2021, if we did that 418,000, the commission would see an extra over $4,000 coming into the city that they could allocate as they see fit. And then, of course, projecting that number forward for the next 15 years, a substantial increase, which you'll see. And the breakdown that I've added onto the next page, 1 cent per gallon, again, an absorbable cost for Summit would equate to roughly $66,394 more to the city of Springdale from years 2022 to 2036. So the value to you guys, the value to the city and to the airport. Since obtaining the FBO lease in 2016, Summit Aviation and the airport has grown considerably. Growth in the region has increased in the amount of traffic to the airport, and that trend is expected to continue for the foreseeable future. We are fully vested in the success of Springdale Airport, so it makes sense that any improvement we make to the FBO likewise improves the airport overall, as we believe. Executive Aviation, who is owned by Mark, is able to offer a very competitive 135 or charter business through his company, and they are by far Summit Aviation's biggest customer. That's going to allow them, not only our company, but their company to grow substantially throughout the next few years. Every decision made by you guys is a financial investment in the airport. In this proposal, I hope I've shown you that we want to build on and increase the value of what you have built. And we want to try and extend our presence for our customers, for our employees, and for the city of Springdale. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Comments?
I hate that Joel's not here because Joel was the one that specifically asked for this information. So he had another meeting he had to attend elsewhere.
He did. He was kind enough to call me and tell me he wouldn't be able to make it. And I was actually going to say, if you guys wanted time to spend more time with this, he could as well, and we could discuss it more in the future.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How do you envision 15-year or a 5-year extension. The day that we sign that, how much time do you have to operate as an FBO from that day forward?
Well, that's been a question of mine as well. How would it be structured? And what I've kind of kept in my mind is that it would be kept with the original contract signing date, which was back in July, and that would be the date forward.
So what do you have now?
We have 9 years left. So we've used our first 5 years. We took the option for the second, and we're about halfway through that second year, or the first year of the second option. And so if accepted, this would be less than 5 years.
So I find it hard to understand why this is necessary. I'm just not following that.
Well,
You're out there 10 years now, and you're asking to extend that on out, which would be 15 years.
yes, sir.
And that's been my understanding all along. And I know why we did it, and I think we explained that the last time.
Mhm.
To me, that just seems like you're putting yourself out in a time frame that we have no idea where we're going to be
Mhm.
at the time. Neither do you. And to extend it even past 10 years, to me, is a stretch.
That's very
my
true.
opinion.
Yeah.
I've always had that opinion. That may not coincide with anything that the other commissioners have. I'm just telling you I remember why we did it to begin with. And it wasn't anything that we intended to continue. So we did agree to lease a 5-year lease with a 5-year option.
I got you.
And I thought that's what we was operating under now.
So is that what we're at now? It's really confusing because, I mean, you weren't around when this happened, but
Right.
like we had a discussion. We made a committee who Greg's no longer with the airport commission. He went to the committee met with your folks, and I think Wyman maybe was involved, and they came up with an agreement.
Mhm.
And the agreement was like 30 years. And they brought it back, and it like we almost passed it. And we're like, wait a second. And we stopped it. And then we looked at it, and it seemed really, predatory is an ugly word for it, but it seemed very one-sided, like it was really going to help Summit.
Mhm.
But it put us to where we were at your mercy for 30 years.
Mhm.
So that's part of why, when that happened, it really, I mean, it woke us up to like, hey, we really need to watch this, because if we're not careful, we could end up in a situation where things are running down and we don't have any position to stop it, right?
Yes.
So that's our fear, and that's what Neil is worried about, because Neil has been with the airport commission long enough. We have seen rainy days. I think we're in sunny days right now, and he just wants to make sure we always have that option.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it gets confusing. So we did a 10-year lease with a 5-year extension after that. No, yes.
A 5-year.
5-year lease.
Yes.
So a total of 15 years. We finished 5 of them. We're in the first year of the second 5.
Correct.
And you have 5 more at the end. And what you're asking for is an additional 5 to be put
Yes.
out there. So
Yes,
basically the same as the terms that we had back. Basically, you want us to just extend what we did before just again, right? Like if we wrote the contract that we wrote 6 years ago again, that's what you're asking for.
That's what I'm asking for, ultimately.
I'm just not interested in addressing this time. I think we've got plenty of time. We've got 9 years to worry about this. And 2 years ago, I didn't know what the word COVID was, and today it's etched in my brain. That's never going to go away.
Mhm.
And so I don't know what will happen 2 years from now, much less 9 or 10 years from now. And I just assume we wait till we get closer to the conclusion of this lease before we address a new lease. I'm not trying to, I think your proposal's pretty and nice, and you've got a lot of nice features in there, but as far as myself being concerned, that'd be where my position is.
Mhm. And that's kind of where our concerns came from as well. Again, COVID, business outlook. What can we start to reach out towards and attempt to gain to better secure our future? And that's where this really stemmed from is how do we, make our business as secure as possible with what we know is going to come, such as large purchases, increased personnel pay, all the different things. We're paying a lot more in insurance than we were 2 years ago as well. So just all these different things is what really got this ball rolling for me to present this to you guys.
We spent a lot of time a few years ago debating this and coming up with the contract that we have now. I really don't want to start over and address this whole thing again. Literally months and months of work.
Yeah, y'all said I formed a committee to, I wish I would have been around then.
We formed a committee. That committee brought back something that we did not accept. So we formed another committee and did it all over again from the ground up. It was
I didn't realize it was done
lengthy,
twice.
difficult process. And I do I don't own the building that I'm leasing for my business. So I do understand your insecurity and not being able to know. I could, if my landlord decided not to renew my lease, I'd have to find a new space, but there's a lot more spaces available than there are airports. So
Right.
I understand your concern with like purchasing new assets and investing in the future of Summit at our airport without any kind of assurances of long-term. Just at this time, the most that we can offer is the extent that 9 years that we still have.
Right.
Right? When you say that's accurate, I mean, you can see where they're backseat a little bit. I mean, if they're gonna go out and invest $250,000 on equipment and they don't have certainty they're gonna have a place to be, 9 years may be enough time that you can feel certain and comfortable with that type of window. You know, if we had 2 years left, I could see being nervous about it. And that's where we might be more agreeable to discuss it as we get closer to a shorter period of time. Do you agree? Greg, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the things you're saying now are the same things that we said when we discussed all this.
We lose, I'm not trying to be hard-nosed or anything, but we lose our power. No reflection on Summit. You know you've got that renewal as long as you behave yourself to that.
Of course.
For lack of
It's in
better
black and
word.
white.
Yeah. So it just means if we come up at the renewal time and we're not happy, we're in a lot better position we are if we've already given it away on down the road.
Understandable.
And we need that renewal periodically for us to feel like we're in that position. So I'd like to put this to bed, you know, and so it was on the agenda, it's been proposed, and I'll just ask for you, what's your pleasure?
Well, I'm just not interested at this time.
Hear a motion that we
Do we need a
we
motion?
freeze it right where it's at for now, for the time being? I don't want to revisit this every airport commission meeting.
I think you might take a look at it when the next renewal comes up, and there's 5 years left. You know, that might be a possibility and see, but that's 4 years down the road as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you need to make a motion or not, I just let it.
Well, I'm just trying to stop it from coming up. I guess we could do that with just not allowed on the agenda, but that's not. But
I don't
this is-
think he's gonna keep
Well,
trying
yeah,
to put it
no,
on the agenda.
whatever your decision is, I'm not gonna hound you on it. I just, you know, this is a one time, we're gonna try this. If it doesn't take, we got time.
Okay.
See you in 4 or 5 years.
All right. See you in 5 years. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for entertaining this as much as you did. I really appreciate it. That's all I've got, unless you have any other questions about the FBO or operations. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's go back and ask for approval of the minutes from last meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ernest? You don't? You just came to
Okay,
support
for
us?
the coffee?
Great. Thanks for coming. Laura? You got an update?
Is this on? Yeah. I don't really have much either, honestly. Everything's just been smooth sailing out there for now. We're just maintenance as it comes up, trying to keep everything in check and looking forward to winter when we can slow down on mowing. And I don't have quotes yet on new equipment. I'm still working on that, but we've been discussing a lot on what we think that we need and what we can live with. And what we can do with the equipment we have. So we're still looking at that right now.
I don't have it in front of me here, but I was looking at numbers. Are we still mowing? We had rain in forever.
Periodically, mainly it's just because of the weeds is more than the grass right now. But, they sprout up those seed
Sure.
pods, and it just doesn't look good. So we try to keep it, especially the front of the terminal around the parking lot area and the road coming in. That's always our main concern, that looks nice.
Mhm.
And then, the fields when he needs it around the runway and stuff. But yeah, it's nice that it hasn't rained.
Can anything be done about the stairs inside the terminal building? They just have like I don't know if it's just grease from the restaurant or what it is, but they just always look dirty. Is there a cleaning? Is there anything like?
I have a name of a carpet cleaner. I was gonna ask what his price might be on that. I can't imagine it'll be too much. There's only 33 steps.
You guys have been in there. They
Yeah,
look
Yeah,
pretty
I
safe.
have. I was in there last Saturday and they're dirty. They're just no getting around it.
Yeah, I
They're
just
showing
got his
wear and
name
tear.
last week, and so I
Have
haven't
you ever
gotten
had a
hold of him
good
yet.
commercial carpet cleaner?
James said they had one several years ago, and he said he was really happy that
Mm-hmm.
how it looked when it was clean. So I thought I would try that first, because economically that would be the cheapest thing. I think a couple $100 we should be able
Well,
to do that.
if it doesn't make any improvement, it's gonna be something I'm gonna drive at, is replacing that carpet, because it looks bad. And I don't know if we replace it with something that is more durable and will be able to handle people walking around out on the ramp where there's jet fuel in their boots and.
Right, but the issue you will have
restaurants
with
and-
stairways is that it should be some sort of carpet to alleviate slippage.
Not
If you
replace it
put,
with-
if you
with
put like a wood or
composite
tile or
material.
anything,
Yeah.
you'll get slipping, so.
We just gotta think through that and make a good
Yeah.
choice on it, or maybe a replaceable tile like they use in, like
Yeah, I just
something
would
that-
worry that would be slippery if someone spills water or coffee or something and it's not noticed right away.
I mean, like a carpet tile that's replaceable.
A carpet tile,
But something, yeah. If you'll let us know on that, because
okay.
everything else looked really nice. I thought the terminal building looked really good.
What about an update on the restaurant? Anything new there?
Now, he said that just fluctuates. Some days he has a line out the door and other days he's like, doesn't know how to get people in. But then, the next day he's back to really busy and the word is on the streets, just great food.
And he's consistently working his schedule.
Yes. Tuesday through Saturdays, and Saturdays, I believe it's 9 to 4. And he said that's been good for him too.
I intentionally look for signage by the road on Saturdays, and I'm not seeing anything.
He has his name on the marquee out on Powell.
No, I know that, but he was gonna
You-
put like a tripod or something out there advertising to bicyclists to come in and have a cold beer.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he
Good
hasn't
lunch.
gotten that far yet. He did put something inside the terminal building downstairs. He has a tripod that he writes the menu, what his special for the day
Yeah,
is.
I'm aware of all that. We had talked about it 2 months ago, probably. He was gonna. put
Yeah, he
something-
wanted to put something up on the fence. He wanted to like physically attach to the fence, and we told him he had discussed that with the FAA. So I'm not sure he got that far yet.
How many we got on the list for hangars?
68, I believe, today.
How many?
68 for enclosed, and I think there's 7 on the open tee. And I get calls all the time, and some of them will just say, just forget it, don't put me on the list.
The reason I asked that, Wyman is gonna be speaking here shortly, and I don't know if he's gonna talk about it, but we were talking about maybe since we haven't raised the rent since 16, we may take a look at that, raise it, as much as 9%.
Yeah, that's what I understand Rogers is
How
going
much
somewhere
effect do
around
you
there.
think that would have on our occupancy?
I don't think it would change because they have nowhere to go. If we I think that's always been what I understand is that, everybody kind of talks, and if you're gonna raise your rates, everyone else will too. So that we're all in the same and everybody has a waiting list. The lowest number I heard was 45 on a wait list, and that was months and months ago, so.
I think we'll be bringing that up.
And if they want to keep their hangars, they're playing safe. I don't think another $20 or $30 is gonna bother very many people.
Okay. So, of course, we'll be discussing that, but let me just get your input. Are you thinking it should be a percentage across the board or a dollar amount per hangar style?
That, I'm kind of unsure. I can't really comment on that because I don't understand the prices as they exist right now. I'm not sure why we have, I don't know if it's the location where they're at and the access to the taxiway. Some of
That
them are
hasn't
higher
been-
prices or,
That hasn't been revisited for a long time. as opposed
but
to
some of them, they're the
quality.
same square footage, but they're different prices. So I don't know if it's
Right.
just the style of
It's
door
just a
that they
thought.
have or the location or what, or maybe the newer hangar just got a higher price than an older hangar. But I have started looking that over here recently too, with knowing that Rogers is increasing theirs to see what it could be.
Sounds like we need to be more uniform on our pricing.
Well, if we're gonna have an increase, if we just do a percentage across the board,
Well,
a
if you
T
do,
hanger,
if you do that, you get some odd rents, and right now we've got all them even numbers. What I've tried to do is get the price per square footage of comparable hangars the same. The rolling doors are a little bit cheaper than the one with power doors.
right,
And the newer ones are a little more expensive. But I look at the cost per square foot or rent per square foot and try to get that even because we've got several different sizes of hangars.
right.
And sometimes that requires an adjustment in them. But I handed out a spreadsheet that showed some proposed raises last time, which I can hand out again. Or send email to you. Our lease requires us to give them a 3 months notice before we're gonna raise rent. If we raise it, I'd like to target for April 1st of next year, because there's 95 hangars. It'll take us a while to draft 95 letters and make sure that they're all delivered.
So if we give them 3 months' notice, that would back it up to January,
And
February.
I'd propose to raise through the fence, about $80 a year.
So we've got time to talk about this,
Right.
put it together.
Do we have anything? I have not seen it. We have something in our packet here with that?
It was previous
We were
month.
just talking about it.
It was the stapled thing folded in half in the previous, last month's.
I might have missed that.
Yeah, I did too. But, anyway, we've got time to think about it, but I think the raise, the increase will be fine. Any more discussion on that?
I would ask just that it be on next month's agenda again to, maybe go ahead and revisit it. Because now, Wyman, to clarify, did you say you wanted effective the 1st of April?
Yes. But that was the target date I picked.
Okay, with 3 months advance notification. So January, February, March. Is that correct?
It'd give us February, March and January, February, March to know. So we'd have to do them before the end of the year.
Okay, so the letters, to back it back, then your letters need to go out no later than the 1st of January
But
of
they
2022.
should receive it before the first
Oh.
of January.
We can
Okay.
start the discussion at the next meeting.
Yep.
We'll put it on the agenda for discussion.
What I proposed would bring in about $24,000 a year in additional revenue.
Could you send that out before the meeting so we have a chance to look it over so we can talk intelligently about it? Yeah. Or at least attempt to be intelligent.
Do our best.
Okay. Anybody got any more questions for Laura? If not, Wyman, airport activity.
We've still got a little cash in the account, but we're planning to use that as matching money for the state grant that we got. So, but we should get some additional money. Went ahead and filled out all the paperwork for the first, code revised grant that we got, which was partially restricted for contract tower cost and everything, so we should get another 57,000 in the next week or two.
But the bottom line, we're a little better shape financially than normal.
We were a little better than normal. And I think there's gonna be, an official announcement next week on the east side taxiway.
That'd be good. Any other questions for Wyman? How's your fuel sales and revenue?
Well, FPL is already covered
Already
that
talked
story,
that.
so.
I wonder if you had anything to add. Anybody got any questions for Wyman? If not, Adam, you got an update?
I'll let Craig do a project update, and then I'll do our CIP after that. Awesome. My name is Greg Thomas with Garver. Just a brief introduction. It's been an exciting month. Over the last month, we've had a lot going on at Garver with a bunch of different projects. I'll start with the least exciting and kind of move through the most exciting. So let's talk about the East Side Hangar project. This East Hangar construction project. Like I said previously, we have a hangar, and that's the $700,000 worth of funding that we got from the city. And then we also have the site development portion of the project that is just going to be the apron, the grading and site work associated with that. The hangar, we have received officially approval from City Council on the $700,000. You guys are probably already familiar with this, and the matching funds with that are going to be about $18,000. So the city will pay $700,000. The airport will have to cover the remaining $18,000 on that. Currently, we're working to schedule APAC, who's the contractor for the site development portion. We're working to schedule the pre-con meeting with them so they can get started out there. You'll notice there's a few trees that are already down that they kind of started, some of the mobilization and demolition, but we're just scheduling that pre-con so we can get started with the water line and some of the other larger items associated with that project. We expect that to just wrap up before winter. The hangar construction project, that's the one that it will be with Olkey Construction. We actually had a meeting with them today that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. But the hangar construction project, with current shortages with steel, and then also the shipping industry, things like that due to COVID, we're looking at about 26 weeks on the manufacturing of that steel building. And so despite the fact that we may get the site development portion done before this winter, it won't be spring before we get started and finished up with that hangar building itself. And so that's the East Hangar project. Are there any questions on that or on those two projects? Awesome. As I mentioned, we also met with Olkey Construction today to talk about the hangar over on Powell Street in the southwest corner. And that's the hangar slab that has steel sticking up out of the ground. We met today with Laura. It was me and Adam, Laura. We also invited the building inspector who had done a lot of the inspections for that building, as well as Olkey Construction. They had two guys out there that met us. It was a good meeting. We identified some concerns, especially with having that steel sitting out there for so long, up and kind of getting affected by the winds and things like that. So some of the big ticket items that may come up are getting a structural engineer to evaluate that. And then some of our other concerns are just oversights from the previous planning of that project, things like getting a water line extension for a fire hydrant so that we can make sure the fire marshal and the hangar is up to code. So, but all that to say is we met with Olkey. We're going to get an estimate from them. They're going to put together an estimate over the next month. We're going to continue coordinating with Springdale Water, SWEPCO, who's the power provider out there, as well as the planning department, just to make sure everyone's on the same page with what kind of approvals and permits we need to kind of get this project kicked back up and going again. So what I have for you is we're going to have an estimate for the next commission meeting, and then we can discuss what the path is forward, and we can kind of break down that estimate. We'll actually walk through it with them a few days before, so that maybe we can know what items are necessary, what items we can cut. But just a reminder is we're going to need obviously to finish the hangar building, but there will also need to be the construction of an apron, any of the site work and drainage improvements associated with that. So there'll be a detention pond requirement, and then finally that water line extension that I mentioned before. So it's more than just the hangar building that'll need to get constructed. So it might be more of an undertaking than initially thought. But we'll get that estimate from them, and all of that will be included, so we'll have a number that we can review then. Any questions about that? I see, yes.
Yeah, I got a few. So from the water standpoint and all that is in the process? You've already contacted Springdale Water to give us a bid
So-
on that?
We have not contacted Springdale Water yet. That's something that came up today. Ed Stith, he's the building department, he mentioned. We saw that there was a water hydrant that was planned to be there, but it never got installed. So that's going to be something that we identified today that needs to be installed with this project.
But all those things you just addressed, those will all be brought to us next month.
That is correct, yes.
And will they also appraise the steel that we have on site?
Yes, so their plan is to send someone out to go look at what Laura has at the, I keep forgetting where you guys have it, at the Public Works Department, and then what's also out there. And then either decide if that's everything that they need to build the building, what else, what other pieces or materials that they need to kind of put the rest of it together. So they're going to have all of that ready for the next meeting.
So we've heard before that foundation isn't done right.
Yes, that was a concern today, is that the foundation, there were some ponding issues on it where it was too flat, the water wasn't running off of it. You can also see some signs of weathering from when, it's been out there for 2.5 years or so, water's been sitting on it, things like that. So our plan for moving forward with that is to either grind it so that it does drain properly. That was a requirement for the fire marshal, was to make sure, if we have a hangar, or if we have a plane in the hangar, that if any fuel spills, that it gets out of the hangar. So we have to make sure it drains properly. And then we're going to seal it so that any sort of those discrepancies, like the weathering and stuff that I mentioned earlier, is kind of covered with that seal coat that we'll put on it.
What about capping it?
Sorry, say that one more time.
What about capping it?
Ooh, I don't know much about that. You want to speak on that, Adam?
Cheaper than grinding.
Yeah, we definitely, I think there's two things there. Number one, I want to answer one more thing for Mike, and then I'll answer that question for you, Neil. We did find out today that was a positive that the foundation was inspected before it was poured, which at least we know what we can't see was inspected by someone from the city of Springdale. That gives us a lot more confidence that what we can't see is done correctly. There are a lot of issues with the surface. Some of it's just poor workmanship, and some of it could be long-term things like the ponding. We talked to Olkey both about grinding or about coating and trying to come up a little bit to force it. But there's a third thing is, for some reason at the time, the fire marshal was requiring some sort of slope inside the building that we're not sure is actually a requirement through the new NFPA. And so there's a few competing things that we got to figure out. But I agree with you, Neil. I think we talked coating on site, and depending on how bad the depressions are, coating may be the best option. But if they're so bad we can't do with coating, then maybe just have to do some grinding.
Any other questions about that? I'm referring to it as the southwest hangar construction, since we have an east on Highway 265 over there. But any other questions about the hangars?
So I'm new to this. Neil knows this way better than I do, but like building inspectors are coming through and inspecting these things built in the city of Springdale. So we should have some sort of reliability on what the building inspectors have done.
Correct, yes. And so through the past month, I've also collected, previous plans, and he sent over previous comments or any sort of responses that they have had throughout the process. And Ed, who was the building inspector, was very responsive. He's actually going to put together a list of everything that the building inspections department is going to require for this project to move it forward. So that could be anything from, fix seal coating and fixing the drainage issues to anything else that he can pull back up from those previous reviews. So he's working great with us on this project, and we should have something on that next week. Or sorry, we'll have it from him next week. We'll have it to you guys next month. Cool. And finally, this is the most exciting project, is the Taxiway B Extension project. Once again, this is the 100% funded project. Previously, we had received confirmation that the FAA would like for us to move forward bidding this project and finalizing the design, bidding this project. So in the last month, we have bid the project. We received 2 bidders on the project. The lowest responsive bidder was Emery Sapp and Sons. They are the contractor that actually did the runway rehab out here a couple of years ago. We work with them a lot out here. They're a great contractor to work with, so we're happy with that. And after we received the bid, we worked with the FAA to put together the budget and put together a grant. So we submitted a grant to the FAA that they will have been reviewing, and the final budget for the entire project, that's including construction and any other associated. I've mentioned like floodplain analysis, other sort of fees that are going to come up during construction that we'll have to evaluate. But the total project is $3,855,778. Said that kind of wrong, but $3.8 million. That's the total project budget. And what I wanted to hit on was that, like I said, it's 100% funded by the FAA. The city share of that is actually only $2, and the reason for that is the FAA doesn't pay for a little bit of the change, and then there's also a little bit of insurance that the city will have to cover. So of that $3.8 million, the city is only responsible for $2. The 2 takeaways from this are, the 2 takeaways, the 2 big takeaways for this are having this project ready to bid provided, one, it saved the city $135,000 in matching funds. That would have been what the city would have paid for a typical 90-10 grant in a regular year. And the second thing is we saved, because this project was ready to bid, we pushed it up a year in our CIP, our capital improvement plan, which Adam's going to talk about here in a second. By pushing it up a year, it actually pushes every other project up in the capital improvement plan, but also helps us get that $150,000 entitlement money that we get every year. It helps us get that 1 year sooner. So because this project was funded this year, we saved $135,000 this year. We won't have to spend that $150,000 next year. So that's the big takeaway. This was a great opportunity to work on this project and to get it funded. We expect that to be officially announced next Tuesday. But yeah, that's no buts actually. That's it. Officially announced next Tuesday. Any questions about that project? Awesome. I'll turn it over to Adam.
Thank you. So he segued into CIP. If y'all remember, this is the time of year, every year we get to talk about your 6-year capital improvements plan. This is required by the FAA. You have to submit to them your 6-year plan every year so they can program funding. And there's 2 things I want to talk about this year. I really want to take a bigger look at this year instead of just rolling everything up like we have in the past. With the East Taxiway happening a year sooner, we get to make more decisions and we have more money to play with than we had otherwise. And the other thing I want to keep in mind is that there's this infrastructure bill that's sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office right now that's going to increase FA funding by 100%. So it's going to double from $3 billion a year to $6 billion a year for the next 5 years. And early indications are that's not going to change your entitlement. You're not going to get $300,000 a year instead of $150,000 a year. That's going to be strictly discretionary. So FAA is going to decide based on their formulas, priorities of what projects to fund with that money. And we know their priorities. We know it's runway out and it's safety first. And so with those 2 things in mind, I think we want to talk about how we can be strategic in your CIP, the plan, how we're going to use your entitlements, but also be thinking about, is there a project out here that we haven't even put on the CIP in a while that we want to try to advance, get in front of the FAA now to try to capture some of that money that we assume is going to pass in that infrastructure bill sometime in the next few weeks. So with that said, what I've done is I'm going to go to the second page first, look at the map that I gave everybody. This is actually a copy of your CIP exhibit from last year. I took off the East Taxiway since that's funded now. The only other project we had on your CIP last year was that one shown in blue at the top of the page. Effectively, that's a new taxi lane. That would be just one hangar development area to the north of where we're developing right now. So in essence, if we build out the current hangar development area with 4 hangars, this new taxi lane would open up another area off 265. And we originally planned that for 2025. Of course, we could slide that up a year now and do it in 2024 since everything can come up because our entitlement was saved for next year. And so that's the baseline. That's where we're at right now, is if we just split everything up a year. But I think there's other things to think about at this point. From talking about all the developments or the possibility of bringing other hangars onto Powell Street and supporting that development, we could look at access road construction down there to try to bring road and utilities up that corridor to further develop that area. If we can start that process with Olkey or some other contractor in the existing hangar. But again, it's not really a huge cost. I think the two I really wanted to talk about today to get in your brain to think about, and again, I'm not asking for answers today, this is just discussion today, would one be a more expansive rehabilitation of the terminal apron. For those of you who were around in 2015, you remember we overlaid maybe a quarter of that apron. We would have loved to have done more, just didn't have the money to do it all. So possibly looking at doing some additional rehabilitation on that apron. It's getting old. It could probably use a mill and overlay for the entire apron. That's probably going to be $1 million project to do the whole apron. So something to think about. Even maybe teaming that with an expansion project. Maybe expanding it further to the south. We expanded it by about 60 feet, I think, Greg, in 2018. But going further to the south, just give you more terminal parking. That's one possibility of a project you could start targeting for additional funding from the FAA. The other one's the elephant in the room. It's the one we never like to talk about, which is relocating the East Side Taxiway. The East Side Taxiway is 200-foot offset from the runway. It's supposed to be 240-foot offset from the runway, so it needs to shift 40 feet to the, I said East Side, I meant West Side Taxiway. My apologies. The West Side Taxiway should be shifted 40 feet to be FAA standard. And the reason I even bring it up, it's not in bad shape. I mean, it's in pretty good shape given its life. But it's going to be a pretty big undertaking from a money standpoint to do that at some point in the future. And the FAA is not going to fund to rehabilitate that thing in its current condition. So in 10 years from now, when you do want to do maybe a major rehab on it, the FAA is going to force you to relocate it then. And because of the dollar value, it's probably going to get chopped up. It's going to be painful. It's going to take time. Is this a situation we want to try to look at maybe leveraging some of this extra money and try to knock it out now when there's the money there, even though from a rehab standpoint, we don't have to do it yet. And so these are all just discussion items to talk about. Like I said, we don't submit this to FAA till November. We want to get in front of you now to think about. We can talk about it again in October before we have to submit it to FAA in the middle of November. So I want you to think about both elements here. What do you want to do with your entitlement money? But if there's money for a bigger project, what might you want to tackle out there?
Is there a limit on the number of projects we can submit?
No, you can. I think you will submit to the FAA your priority in those projects by how you slot them in your CIP. And so you just need to know what big project you have the highest priority for to throw it in there. But you could throw a couple of them in there, but they're going to see your priority by how you slot them by year. Yeah. My recommendation for you is the FAA looks at discretionary requests 3 years out. And so for us, that's going to be in the 2024, 2025 timeframe. And so food for thought would be, we obviously don't want to not show the taxi lane construction project, which could now slide up to 2024. But maybe we look at throwing a project in 2025. That's something big. Get it in front of FAA now. Get them thinking about funding for it. I think both those projects that I mentioned are big, that they have some safety aspects to them. They have some pavement rehabilitation aspects to them. Those are both buzzwords the FAA uses. And so I think they're both worth at least evaluating as a group to think about what you want to push, or if it's something else on this map. I just wanted to come up with a couple ideas, but we're open to supporting anything that's a priority for the Airport Commission.
On the short term, what about the infrastructure on the south portion that we have developed, that we need water and sewer down there for that building? Should we build it?
The one that is on the south off Powell Street.
Powell Street.
That's a great question. So it's for sure, that building's for sure going to have water infrastructure. I believe that the developer was going to build that. Of course, now he's not building it. It's now the city's project. But there is power there. There is no sewer. So no water, no sewer along that corridor. Obviously, there's always the potential for state funding for those kinds of things too. Obviously, we're using state funding on the east side for utility infrastructure and for pavement. And so, but yeah, you could use water, sewer down that corridor. You have it on the other side of the taxi lane where we built the hangar in 2012, but not on this side of the taxi lane.
So where's the closest tie into that?
Powell Street. It runs along Powell Street, and you'd have to take it
He was gonna
into the airport.
pull it down. And it needs to be hangers. For a row of hangers there, we need it anyway.
You do, yeah. I mean, that,
I think we need to look at that on the short term,
mhm.
near term. Because if we build that hangar that we're evaluating right now, we're gonna need it there.
Yeah, you've at least got to get the water hydrant up there to it. You know, that hangar, we looked at it, not sure if it was done correctly, but it did show sewer stub outs for future bathroom connections. So they definitely were thinking that way, possible sewer in the future, but they had no plans in the current condition to put sewer there. I think the only hangar they had planned for water sewer, like inside the building, was going to be the one right at the corner, because obviously that's the easy access to utilities. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you have today. We can talk again about it next month, or if you have an idea of what your priority may be, I can go ahead and draft up a possible CIP for you to look at next month. Again, this is open discussion. Just don't know how, if you have any gut feel today of what you may want to do, and I can bring some options to you next month if that's the case.
On the 40 feet that we're looking at on the west side, how long will the FAA give you as a grace period before they issue an ultimatum?
Yeah, they'll never issue you an ultimatum. Never say never. There's nothing in their policy right now that's going to issue an ultimatum for that situation. But, from time to time, they do issue ultimatums if it becomes a problem. But I don't think that's been the case here. So I would say that the typical answer is they're not going to put any more money into it. And that's kind of the ultimatum is at some point that asphalt's going to deteriorate to a point where you're going to need more than just a state grant to rehabilitate it. And that's when the FAA is going to say, well, we're not going to pay for it in its current location. And we do see that a lot in these kinds of situations.
What was your estimate on the cost?
For that taxiway, my gut reaction, knowing that northeast taxiway was $3 million, 6 to 7 million for the whole west side taxiway. So it's going to be a substantial undertaking, multi-phase project to keep access to the runway.
Moving it and redoing it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're moving it just enough to not get to use any of the existing pavement.
What are your thoughts on life expectancy for that?
Boy, it's in really good shape. I would say you're at least 10 years away from looking at probably a mill and overlay, which is your next thing. We still coated it back in 2010 to 2011 timeframe, I think. That did a good job for it, but I'd say this, if the FAA, if you were to try to go this route and the FAA said, not a priority for us, I'd probably want to still coat it again pretty soon just to be safe and try to push that life out a little bit more. But I think you're looking at 10 years between needing to do some major rehab on it, more than just a seal coat. So it seems like a long way away, but again, just because of this infrastructure bill, I think it's worth talking about.
I don't think the infrastructure bill is going to pay for new hangars for us, but it's something we could use that direction.
On hangars?
I mean, they're not going to pay for new hangars. That's not a safety issue. Like, they're really trying to push for those types of things. Then this would be a safety issue, would fall under that. So to really look at safety issues, airports are going to have a hard time finding things. I mean, I guess they can add additional, what are the light alert systems and I mean, that type of thing could go in. I mean, are there things like that we could have? You guys that know the airport better than I do. Is that the stuff that what's that called? The lights, the red go.
We call them wigwags.
Yeah.
But
Those types of things. Do we need those things? Do we have those things? Are those in good shape? I mean, we repaired them not long ago. What are they called? ILS or something? Any other safety things that we could look at?
I don't know, you mentioned the ramp, the tarmac, I mean, maybe some attention there, like you said, but if it's gonna be planned eventually, then.
There is one thing that I haven't heard in years about, but at one time we were being told we were gonna have to put a breakaway tower down there on the south end for the ILS. Have you heard any more about that, or where would that be?
I have not. I don't expect that to be a situation at one point with some different safety area. requirements, then it would become a part of that safety area and then would have to have a breakaway tower. But that is not the case in the current standards.
And any runway extension is out.
Yeah, the FAA shut the door on that pretty hard 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of going back to the southwest where we are and improving that as much as we can to even hopefully attract some other folks that'd be interested in building back in there.
That's definitely my preference too, Greg. I like that idea. I'm just not sure there's a safety part of it. So if we're really going to try to get some infrastructure money, that we may need to put our taxiway movement up there and know that that's not necessarily our wish, but we can certainly be working towards a grant that might help us that way.
One of my safety things that I've always been really cautious about around that airport is that where that terminal building is and where people can walk out onto the ramp, and there's so many different movement areas out there, it is not really clearly marked on where you can walk and where you shouldn't walk. Our airport is getting so busy right now. I mean, 20, 30, 50 flights a day coming in and out of that airport with traffic moving around that ramp. And I see just more and more people, students coming in and out of there, walking over to hangar buildings, tenants walking over to hangar buildings across the ramp. And honestly, that has always been a huge concern of mine here. I mean, it always has. Just from the safety of people. I had an incident just yesterday where I was walking behind a couple of aircraft. I had a Beechcraft firing up. I saw the light on it, beacon light, and another King Air was firing up right next to it, no lights on it whatsoever. And I had walked around the front of it, and the prop started spinning right as I was walking around the front. So there was no lighting, there was no designated place for people walking across the ramp or anything like that. I've always thought that that's a major safety concern at that airport. But I don't know how you would address any of that, but that's just one thing I've always thought about.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the ways to address it through striping, and of course, doesn't stop someone from walking across the stripe. But you can put things on the ground. We see it a lot at FBO type airports where they have, the solid red line, and then they put no crossing or no pedestrian crossing over it. But the enforcement is sometimes the key there. Right, it's true.
Okay, back to your business. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't. So I've heard a couple things. Maybe I can regurgitate them. I've heard that the southwest hangar development may be a higher priority than even building out another taxi lane on the east side. Did I hear that correctly? Okay.
I think so.
So I think we could maybe flip, replace what's in the CIP now as a taxi lane, and then put the access road construction in that place. Switch those two. And then the year after that, plan for something big, but it sounds like y'all may want to think on that a little bit. So I'll just put like a placeholder for larger capital project. Y'all can sleep on it 30 times between now and next month, and we talk about it again, and y'all can give me some feedback of what you think the priority may be. If it's one of these two or something else, we're happy to talk about it.
The east side taxi lane would be like what we've already worked out for 4 hangars there. We're looking at another set of 4 hangars.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's always state money we could use for that too.
That's gonna look different when we get that taxiway extended all the way down through there.
It's gonna make it more desirable, for sure.
Pardon me?
It's gonna make it more desirable to be.
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, to get to the runway 18 without having to cross the runway.
As that develops, that'll all get more desirable. Okay.
All right. Any other questions for me before I finish up? All right, thank you.
On old business, I don't know how much discussion this needs right now with the commission, but as you know, we're looking for another, commissioner. It's, we lost one. And we have two submissions that I don't know if everybody got a copy of that, but be looking at them, seeing what you think, and I think there's some more maybe coming in. And maybe next week, we may make a recommendation, and the mayor will be the one, the selecting body on this. And, but I think, what I understand, they would like some input from the commission, so there's two resumes there.
Does anybody know anything about either one of these guys?
Micah does,
I know James Coleman. He's a marketing executive, works with Sam's Club, handles their digital marketing. So my thought I actually asked him if he was interested and suggested that he fill out this application for the commission. My thought with it was that we frequently have marketing issues. We talk about our airport being one of the front doors to our city. Thought having someone with some experience with marketing and helping us to figure those things out. Lots of sign questions, that type of thing, but really trying to figure out how we market ourselves better. I've known him for, 10 years. He's lived in Springdale. You can see from the application for 17 years. He lives in Thornberry. He's asked me for several years how to get plugged in, and when this came available, I thought this is a good opportunity, so I recommended he fill out the application.
okay, well, we may have more at the next meeting. I don't know just how critical this is. Surely we can do one or two more meetings.
As long as we've got a quorum, we're all right.
Yep. We've been fortunate with that. So we'll just, everybody look at this, and if any more comes in, then we'll talk about it next meeting.
If we get more, could we get them in advance of our next meeting to have an opportunity to take a look, see?
If they send them through our website, I'll print them out and distribute them.
Sounds good. Any other old business? Comments from the commissioners?
Do we want them here? Do you want to talk to them?
We never have. I haven't been involved in it. I think the mayor.
I thought
interviewed
usually the
when they
mayor
make
just,
select
we
time.
meet someone the very first time when they've been appointed
Sure,
usually,
yeah.
right?
Well, that's true. I just said we've never had them come in before. They met them first when they sat on the commission. But, as I've seen them come and go, and everyone here has been involved in that, typically it's just more or less a contact with the mayor, and he presents it to the council, and they approve it, and then we've got another commissioner.
Is it a situation where we recommend it then? Or no?
Pardon me?
Do we recommend or no?
I have never been involved in a recommendation, but I think now the mayor's looking for some input.
That was
From-
my
from the
understanding,
commission?
is that the mayor's looking for a recommendation
That's
from us.
That's what I'm hearing.
And then we'd probably need to visit with the guy beforehand before
Yeah.
I'd recommend
I'll
something.
visit with the mayor about
Want
this,
to talk to him first, yeah. If we have,
to see how he wants it presented.
So is there
How
an
we-
application process? Is it open to?
Yes,
Yeah.
you go online,
Put it out,
you go online and fill out the application, and, yeah.
You just submit your resume, and then
so has it been published that there is an opening?
No,
I mean, how do people
We
know
don't
to apply if they don't know if there's an opening?
We occasionally publish notices when we're looking for people, but, if we first look and see who we've got that has qualifications.
it's always worked. Got you guys.
Mayor Van Hoos asked me just to give him a year.
Yep, that's the way it's been, real informal, yeah.
So would you ask that anyone that fills out an application be at the next meeting, so if we have questions? Is that how you think we should do it? I mean, that's how I would
Sure.
say we would.
It's open for anything. Any of them shows up, I'd,
What do you think,
get
Bill?
an audience.
I'd like for them to be here. If, you know, if they're interested, then, you know, ask them to attend the next meeting.
So Beth, if you want to forward all those to us when you get them,
Okay.
maybe we come up with a deadline, how far before, and I don't mind personally calling them and asking them if they'll be here at the meeting. I can call everyone that sends an application between now and the next meeting. Let's say between now and, let's see, the Monday. I'll make the calls before, as soon as I get them from you, or last call would be on Monday before our Thursday meeting. I'll call anyone and invite them to be here, and we can have the same information from everyone and ask questions, interview if we'd like.
You wanna offer them the option of a Zoom?
Ooh,
The,
sure, if that's, I don't know, that's not my area of expertise, so.
What's that?
Beth, can we
I didn't
offer
hear
a
what you
Zoom?
said.
A Zoom? You want to have, like, interview them by Zoom? That's more Steve's direction than me.
No, no, no.
And if they want to come, they can come in person.
well, just keep in mind, any of that input, the mayor's gonna appreciate it. But keep in mind, commissioners serve at the pleasure of the mayor. And, that's, I think that's done for a reason too, you know. But, it gives the mayor, and from his position, another tool to deal with his commissions, city's commissions, and so, and he's asking us to provide him with some input. I think that's great. So anything we can do to enhance that, I think we do the right thing.
Daniel, I've got a quick question I meant to ask you. Last Saturday's ball game, you know, it's obvious, you know, the turnout. The ramp had several aircraft, and it was a late game. How did you all handle, and how are you gonna handle late games going forward?
We stay until our last customer is gone. We offer free services to try and attract them to our airport. I heard Fayetteville was very busy. We had, you know, we've got those 2 painted lines on our ramp. We had those filled, and we started building more lines to the south. We filled up the ramp in front of 12 Stone. The guys were booking it all day long. My CSR and one of my line techs were there till past 11, until all the customers were gone. Very satisfied, very happy. We had food out for them. It was a good day. That's the plan going forward.
A lot of fuel sales?
Not as much as we expected. I think we did 1,500 that day. We had a pretty inactive day on Sunday, but we did 300 more. We did 1,800 on Sunday. So we don't really know why that was. We were surprised.
Well, I noticed, I looked at FlightAware Saturday very closely,
Mhm.
and Fayetteville was slammed.
They were. I saw.
They were slammed,
Mhm.
and the biggest part of that activity were folks that reside south of Oklahoma.
Yes.
Most of our activity were Arkansas fans.
hmm It's almost like they had been to Springdale before and they knew they could get through pretty easily, and so they utilized us. And so I think it's kind of you come to Arkansas, you want to go to Fayetteville for a game, you're probably just going to fly to Fayetteville. And so that's one of the things that we were discussing this week, actually, Mark and I. Like, how do we kind of reach out to those guys? So we're looking at tail numbers and giving phone calls and things like that, trying to offer a little bit more of a perk to come to us and seeing what we can do for them.
It's gonna be a regular event soon,
Yes, it will be.
or
It's about time, too.
every other year event.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The beat down.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope that's every other
Welcome to the SEC.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Okay, no more discussion. We will adjourn.